to Trop, we get a contrast in styles as Tampa Bay brings the best pitching staff in the American League to the table, while Toronto counters with the top offense in the big leagues. The Rays and the Jays open a 3-game set right now. Fresh off a 4-1 road trip, the Rays return home to Tropicana Field. And as they begin a 10-game homestand taking on the Toronto Blue Jays, this the first game of a 3-game series. The Rays continue to run first in the American League East. One full game up on New York. Baltimore and Toronto each 3 back. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to an evening of Rays baseball. Great to have you looking in with Todd Callis sitting in for Brian Anderson. I'm Dwayne Statz. So great to have you join us here for the opening game of this series. And we certainly do, Todd, have contrast in styles. This offense of the Toronto Blue Jays, they have been just mesmerizing and pulverizing opposing pitching. And the Rays pitching, well, that's the best in the American League.
The reason these two teams have the best record in the month of June in the major leagues, the Rays pitching and Toronto's offense. We'll start with the Rays pitching. When you have Chris Archer going every 5 days and you have guys like Alex Colomé, who pitched his best game of the season last night, Erasmo Ramirez has filled in well. Then you turn it over to the bullpen. Steve Geltz has been shut down for the last 25 batters he has faced, and Brad Boxberger leading the way in the 9th inning. Fewest runs allowed in the American League with 245. So you've got the strength of the Rays pitching staff going up against a team that has scored more runs than anybody else in baseball, and it's not even close. They are 67 runs ahead of the next closest team, the New York Yankees, and we're only playing in the 70th, 71st, 72nd game of the year. That's almost a run per game better than anybody else. Fortunately, the Rays do not see Josh Donaldson today, but they do see that guy, Jose Bautista. He'll be moved up to number 2 in the lineup for Toronto.
And it has been on the strength of that offense led by Bautista that they've gone on an 18-8 run and catapulted themselves right back in to the middle of the race in the American League East. Tonight on the mound for the Rays to face this lineup will be right-hander Matt Andriese. And when we come back, we'll hear more from Rich Hollenberg and his take on the Rays rookie right-hander.
Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida. The 40-31 first-place Rays set to host the Toronto Blue Jays in an AL East matchup. Well, Matt Andriese is going to be making his 5th start of the season tonight, his 2nd start of the season against these Toronto Blue Jays. And like a number of Rays pitchers, he's been valuable because of his versatility. His last 3 appearances, he's picked up 2 wins and 1 save, with one of the wins coming as a reliever. Here's Kevin Cash, the manager, on his 25-year-old rookie starter.
I think his last outing against Washington might have been the best he's thrown for us this year. His stuff really played up, and he threw a lot of pitches with much more conviction, so that was nice to see. He's going to get the start tonight, facing a good lineup, but we like where he's at.
It's certainly going to be strength on strength. The best pitching in the American League, the Rays, against the best batting in the American League, the Blue Jays. Andriese and the Rays set for Game 1 of a 3-game series against Toronto. We'll have the call moments away. Dwayne Statz and Todd Callis after the break.
Andriese heads to the hill for the Rays tonight. The Rays have won 6 of the 7 games played between these two clubs in the season series, including all 3 games played here at Tropicana Field. We'll take a look at the starting lineup for Toronto, presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Jose Reyes will lead off and play shortstop, followed by Jose Bautista, the DH, up in the number 2 spot in front of Edwin Encarnacion. Deanna Navarro, the former Rays, going to catch and hit cleanup. Chris Colabello in there in left, hitting 5th. Ezekiel Carrera is in right. Eddie Valencia is the 3rd baseman. Kevin Pillar in center. Yunonori Kawasaki is in the lineup at 2nd base tonight. He'll hit 9th.
That lineup will face Matt Andriese, who is making his 5th start at the major league level this year. Also made 4 start in the minors. 10 appearances overall, including tonight, and this will be his 4th against the Blue Jays, which did include 1 start. And he also picked up a save out of the bullpen against them on April 24th.
So the Rays start tonight a game up, 40-31. Toronto 37-34, and they've had quite a run to get there. First pitch of this game presented by Pinch-A-Penny, and it's a fastball and a called strike. Reyes batting .287. Switch hitting shortstop. It's 1-1. And especially good from the left side of the plate. That .287 average overall, .330 against right-handed pitching. And a big cut right there, and a miss. Into center field. Kiermaier is right there and takes care of it. That pitch coming in on Reyes, and they get him on the fly to short center.
Defense for the Rays brought to you by BMW. Your outfield alignment is David DeJesus. Kevin Kiermaier, who almost extended the game into extra innings with a great throw yesterday afternoon in Cleveland, was not handled. Steven Souza Jr. in right field. Evan Longoria, Asdrubal Cabrera, Logan Forsythe, Jake Elmore at first base, and Rene Rivera back behind the plate.
And here is Bautista. Pitch outside. Well, he is a major part of the resurgence of the Blue Jays. They are averaging over 5.5 runs a game. 5.54 runs per game for this Blue Jay ball club.
That's amazing.
You look at the Rays, they're averaging 3.72, and clubs are struggling to get to 4. They're averaging over 5.5. Two on the count to Bautista. John Gibbons in his second tour of duty as the manager of the Blue Jays, 8th season combined. And we'll take a look at Bautista here. At Buick big matchup, and it has been a progression in the right direction for the Blue Jays.
Got that batting average going in May. Didn't have the home runs, and then in June he's put it all together with the average and the home run. 2-2. Tapper foul back toward the on-deck circle. Edwin Encarnacion. The foul ball holds the count at 2-2. You saw John Gibbons earlier. He was very complimentary before the game about how the Rays have been able to fill in voids in the rotation. And Toronto's a team that just sent out Scott Copeland, their starter, yesterday, and they need to find a 5th guy. They would love to have the same success the Rays have had because their offense is certainly good enough. Yeah,
they made a flurry of moves to start this series. Swing and a miss. He went up with them. That fastball from Andriese, 94 on the gun, and he gets Bautista to chase up.
There you see the fastball above the bat of Bautista. That is a thing of beauty for Matt Andriese, coming off what Kevin Cash called his finest outing of the year in that relief stint against Washington.
The pitch is a strike to Encarnacion. You know, we've started to see Andriese fall into the mold that the Rays love. When they got him from the San Diego organization, word was, he just missed there. Word was that he was essentially a sinker ball guy. Well, he's not that dyed-in-the-wool sinker ball guy. You want to keep the ball down, a little movement. But he'll go up now in the zone and maybe just above it like we saw, and then come in with a little cutter like that one.
I like the velo tonight, too. It's been 93, 92. He's pumped up for this start against the best offense in baseball.
A 1-2 count to Encarnacion. He pops him up. Right side foul ball. Elmore through the coaching box for it. And that's a 1-2-3 first for Matt Andriese. No score. We'll go to the bottom of the first, and Kevin Kiermaier will try to get it started for the Rays. head into the home half of the inning. The starting lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Kevin Kiermaier, Joey Butler, and Evan Longoria, 1, 2, 3 down the middle. David DeJesus hitting cleanup again with Logan Forsythe and Steven Souza Jr. following. Then as Jubal Cabrera, Jake Elmore, and Rene Rivera batting ninth.
Drew Hutchison on the mound for Toronto, facing the Tampa Bay Rays, has really struggled away from the Rogers Center. We'll see how he fares tonight.
First pitch into Kiermaier, and he goes after that first pitch fastball, fouling it back. Strike one.
Basically a four-seam slider changeup guy. See a lot more sliders to the right-hand hitters. A few more changeups to the lefties.
And a base hit through the left side. Kiermaier, big turn at first, hangs on there, and the Rays put the leadoff man aboard.
Blue Jays defense brought to you by BMW. Chris Colabello is in left field. 5 outfield assists for Kevin Pillar in center. Ezekiel Carrera is in right. Danny Valencia gives Josh Donaldson a day off at third. Jose Reyes and Munenori Kawasaki, always entertaining. Edwin Encarnacion over at first, and Deanna Navarro, the former Ray, behind the plate.
There's Joey Butler. Takes the pitch down. 1-0. Interesting numbers on Hutchison. When you look at his record, he's 6-1, but his earned run average is .533. The Blue Jays have supported him to the tune of over 7 runs a game. Ooh, a big cut by Butler on the fastball. Every once in a while, you'll see Butler turn it loose. How about that? Best run support now. 8 runs a game for Drew Hutchison.
Somewhere Jake Odorizzi, who threw a bullpen today, is in the clubhouse saying, what?
Yeah.
8 runs a game?
Yeah, that's about as many as he gets in a month.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. 8 runs a game. To have an ERA of close to 5.5, and he has pitched in some bad luck this year, but to have an ERA close to 5.5 and 6-1 record, you've got to be loving on your offense the way they've supported it.
Down and away. 2 balls and a strike. Butler has taken charge and felt right at home in the number 2 spot in the Rays lineup. Kiermaier back in. And as we've seen, he's shown outstanding power to right center. Likes to go up the middle. And he takes a strike. It's 2-2. Foul out of play. Hutchison has also had some issues in his outings at Tropicana Field. His earned run average here in 3 starts is .736, and he still managed to win. He's 1-2 here.
Well, of course, with that run support. He got some run support last year. He gave up 3 home runs in a game against the Rays, and still Toronto ended up on top in that game. That was back on May 26th. Beat the Rays despite allowing 3 home runs.
He's 2-2 with Butler. And the count is full.
Joey doesn't take a lot of walks, and Kevin Kiermaier has been running more lately. I wouldn't be shocked to see if Kiermaier is off here on the 3-2 pitch.
Yeah, Kiermaier 7 out of 8. He didn't get his first stolen base until the middle of May. So we'll see on this 3-2 pitch. Kiermaier goes, and the pitch, a cut and a miss. Throw down's not going to be in time. So stolen base number 8. A 3-2 slider took care of Butler.
That was a good slider too, but because it was down and away, Navarro doesn't have a chance to get out of his crouch and has to throw from his knees. Kiermaier had a good, not a great jump, but with Navarro throwing from his knees, the one hopper was late.
Well, with all those numbers that we gave you on Hutchison, a .533 earned run mark and what he's done against the Rays and how he struggled here, somehow he's managed to tame Evan Longoria, who's 0 for 10 against him in his career. This would be a good time to break that. Off speed, and he takes that for a strike. Starts to go, but checks.
That's the pitch that's been problematic for Evan when he's gotten ahead of him. Look at those 3 strikeouts. 2 have been on the sliders, one of them swinging, one of them looking. And that time, when he gets ahead, he can expand the zone, but Longoria started to swing but did not offer.
Just a bit wide there. And it's 2 balls and a strike. So the Rays with a scoring opportunity in the first with Longoria at the plate. It's fouled back. Evan has driven in more runs against the Blue Jays than any other team in his career. That number stands at 86 right now. And 87 is out there at second base if he can get Kiermaier home.
That's as Longoria's been in the big leagues. No one's close in terms of opposing players to let Evan in RBIs against Toronto.
It's inside and the count is full. Overall numbers against Toronto, a .302 average with 19 home runs. Fly ball headed toward right center. Carrera is there to close and make the catch. Tag at second. Kiermaier goes to third. So Longoria lifts it toward right center. High enough for Carrera to get there.
Saw a lot of pitches in that at bat, which usually bodes well for the next AB. You see a little bit of frustration from Evan as he hit that ball in the right center field that was caught.
Now David DeJesus, who again hits cleanup for the Rays. He's getting used to that 4 spot coming into this game. 12 starts hitting cleanup. There's ball 1. He had hit cleanup once in his entire career coming into this year. Ground ball headed up the middle, and the Rays take the lead. Kiermaier crosses the plate. A 2-out RBI single for David DeJesus.
The Blue Jays shade DeJesus with the shortstop Reyes up the middle, but this one was to the first base side of second base, and it hit the mound, which moved it further away from the Blue Jays shortstop, who had no chance. That's a nice 2-out RBI for DeJesus.
So the Rays grabbed the early lead. DeJesus hit first, and here's Logan Forsythe. Outside. Well, Logan had a good road trip. He started to heat up before the Rays went on the road, and his bat stayed hot. He's 14 of his last 31. in his last 8 games.
I saw Logan take 2 sliders there to start the at-bat. And I think one of the reasons Hutchison has had worse numbers this year than last year is he's not getting that chase on the slider as much this year as he did last year.
And he misses for ball 3, a fastball that time. Yeah, it's not as sharp, not as late in the break as it was before.
You see the balls and strikes so far, even in this first inning.
And there's ball 4, pushing to Jesus up to second base on a 4-pitch walk.
When Hutchison has struggled, in addition to not getting the chase from the slider, he has left too many pitches up with the fastball, and if he does that to Steven Souza Jr., he can hit a long way.
I was just thinking the same thing as Souza prepares to step in there, because Hutchison so far has not shown that he's settled in with the kind of command he would like. So if he misses location on a pitch, look out. And there's ball 1 to Souza Jr.
Both Navarro and Hutchison wanted that strike. Apparently Kerwin Danley thought it was a little bit high because it looked like it had the plate.
And Danley will make you stay on or in the strike zone. Hitters like it when he's back there. Cut the foul ball. 1-1. The fastball about in the same spot as he took the first one. Runners go, and the pitch low, and the throw to second is late. Navarro had difficulty finding the handle on it, decided to go after the trailing runner, and that tossed down there just not nearly in time. The Rays pull off the double steal.
Gotta love the aggressiveness. Nice pick by Navarro. That was not an easy pitch to handle. It bounced well in front of Navarro, and he anticipated the backspin off that slider and picked it clean, but then he double pumped, and Forsythe was able to get in there easily.
It's 51 steals for the Rays as a team now. Souza could not check on that slider. It's 2-2. Strike 3 call. Got him looking on the fastball, and the Rays settle for 1 and lead 2 1-0. The hill. Let's take a look at our Toyota trend. These two clubs since the 2nd of June have gone 14-5. See the Orioles 13-6. That might tell you that the American League East is back, at least for the month of June.
Everybody's been saying what's wrong with the AL East, but here we are with the best overall record in any division in the American League. It took a nice month of June by those three teams and the Yankees to get there, but still the cream has risen back to the top.
One strike to Deanna Navarro. Shoots it up the left side. That's going to be in there and will roll to the corner. DeJesus plays the carom. And it's a double for Navarro, his 3rd of the year. Well, Navarro's in there in the place of Russell Martin tonight. Martin and Josh Donaldson getting the evening off.
Good job just going with that fastball. Probably not even on the outer half, just on the outside of the plate. And Navarro hit it sharply into left field.
Trying to stir things up. Deanna Navarro. Here's Chris Colabello. Off the bat foul up the right side. Boy, he's given this club a lift as well. They claimed him on waivers over the winter from Minnesota. Remember that start he had with the Twins? He surpassed Kirby Puckett in the Twins record book for most RBIs to open a season in the opening month. And now he's given the Blue Jays an instant lift. This one gets away from Rivera and rolls behind him. Navarro's going to go to 3rd. And boy, that was a wild pitch charged to Andriese, and a little strange.
Just yanked, but that's a ball. Normally Rivera gets over and blocks. Just yanked outside the plate. Rene was not able to control that one.
Yeah, he couldn't find that off his foot. That's Kerwin Danley behind the plate, and we mentioned Russell Martin is not in the lineup and probably doesn't mind that. I remember a few years ago, it might have been 08 or 09, when Martin was with the Dodgers and Brad Penny, they got crossed up, and Penny threw a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, and it broke Kerwin Danley's jaw. And that was with Russell Martin behind the plate, so Navarro's catching tonight.
Yeah, good off day for John Gibbons to give his catcher the night off. You're right about Colabello, though. Rich and O were talking in Rays Live, the pregame show, about how this is a different looking lineup than what Andriese saw in April, and this is the key reason. I mean, they have top to bottom. It's nice not to see Donaldson and Martin, but this guy has been a huge threat.
Cut and a miss. Well, he's always been a great story. Colabello playing all those years in the Canadian American Independent League before getting a chance and finally spent that time with Minnesota. He was in 59 games last year with the Twins and gave them a little offense. He averaged not what you might want, but he's always a power threat, and he's hit for average here for the Blue Jays. A tapper by the mound. The run's going to score. Cabrera makes the play. Colabello is the first out, and on the double and the wild pitch and that ground ball, a run scores to tie the game. 1-1. So Colabello made contact to get Navarro home. So the bases are empty now for Andriese. With one out, he'll face Ezequiel Carrera. It's lifted up the left side. Long run for DeJesus, and he's not quite going to get there. One hop and out of play. Strike one. Well, the Rays are running the first, courtesy of the base hit from DeJesus. Now a run in the second for the Blue Jays. Yankees are home tonight. They're playing the Phillies. And that's 2-1 New York at the end of an inning. Shortens on the bat. The pitch is a strike. And the count is 0-2.
The Rays aren't used to playing the game that the Blue Jays play. They get down, it doesn't matter how many runs, and they feel like they're always in it. The Rays like those 3-1, 4-2 games, 2-1.
And for the most part, that's what the Rays have been in and night out, with a rare exception now and then.
And the Jays got down yesterday 7-0, then popped 6 runs at the bottom of the second, ended up taking the lead in that game.
Into left center field. Kiermaier with a long run is there and makes a nice catch. Kiermaier got to the general vicinity and then a little veer back to track that one and make the grab.
Watch the jump. Really good jump on a ball that's tailing away. You saw the slight adjustment Dwayne was talking about, just heading back and making an easy play. But it's never a Kiermaier catch unless there's a jump. This time he waited till he got to the wall.
It's just the punctuation on the end of that sentence of a catch.
He's bored when he doesn't jump at some point in a route.
A ball, no strikes to Danny Valencia. And on the corner, 1-1.
You know, as fast as Kiermaier is, and he covers so much ground, I think his reads and his jumps have gotten better this year, and that's why he's getting even better defensively.
Well, he springs into action with those quick jumps before he calculates, before the computer calculates exactly the trigonometry of making that catch.
Kevin thought he was done with trigonometry.
Well, you know, he gets a great jump on a fly ball and gets to the vicinity, and then you see him make that little adjustment.
You're right about that. That speed gets him there, and then he adjusts. He has to.
It's the same way you and I did that subject in school.
Just get
right at the end.
Right answer.
Yeah, we'd get close to it, and right at the end, make a little adjustment.
There you go. Cosine and sine.
Chop to the left side for Asdrubal Cabrera. So that'll take care of the Blue Jays. They pick up a run. We're tied 1-1 through an inning and a half. Rays baseball on Sun Sports, brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. By Morgan Auto Group. Make it Morgan, we make it happen. It's the summer of '69 at Circle K. Just 69 cents for your favorite size Polar Pop all summer long. First pitch as Drupal Cabrera looks at a fastball for a strike around the knees. Cabrera, then Elmore and Rivera. Up the bat back, took the pitch down. Rays facing Drew Hutchison tonight, making his 15th start. His road and home numbers are amazing as well. We're talking about how he'd fared here at the Trop through a handful of starts. He's 5-1 at home with a .238 earned run average, still 1-0 on the road, but in 7 starts on the road, 1 decision, and his earned run average is .946.
Yeah, he's really only had 1 good start on the road all year. A lot of that damage has been done by Boston at Fenway Park. They got him twice, 6 runs in 4 innings and 8 runs in 2 1/3.
And a bunt, a good one. Will it stay fair? Rolling foul. Just foul. Not quite all the way up that line. Once it hit the turf, you had a bad feeling.
Yeah, that's the thing. And this is a tough pitch to bunt. It was up high. Might have even been ball 4. But once it came off that turf, it gains momentum towards foul territory. And Hutchison just waits for it to continue on that path. As it does, and goes foul. Not a bad idea, but it was a pitch that was up and away and probably would have been a walk had he not bunted it.
And the 3-2 is popped up. So Valencia, who was shaded on the right side in that shift, the third baseman actually made that catch in shallow center.
2 contrasting styles with tonight's pitchers. You have the Rays starter Matt Andriese, who induces a lot of ground balls, and then you have this guy Drew Hutchison, who really pitches up in the zone with a fastball, heavy fastball percentage, and gets a lot of fly balls.
1 ball, no strikes. Well, Archer and Andriese talking it over in the Rays dugout. Well, you talk about contrast as we did in our open offense and pitching. How about tomorrow night? Chris Archer against R.A. Dickey.
Yeah.
So you have Archer, 97, hard late breaking slider, and the knuckleball.
That is going to be interesting to watch. And this guy is always interesting to watch, but you're right. Those styles couldn't be more different.
Oh, there goes the bat. The pitch fouled, and the bat wound up in the Toronto dugout.
Jake did that once in Cleveland. He's going to have to start getting the pine tar caked on there a little bit better. He's actually not even going to bother with that bat. I know he's going to go to the pine stick here.
Yeah. Retrieved by Russell Martin in there.
Thumb guard flies off. There is R.A. Dickey.
Yeah, he was well positioned for that one behind the water cooler, and he could duck. Catching that bat is about like trying to catch his knuckleball. Another foul ball out of play.
He was back just today from bereavement, attending his father's funeral, and he was throwing a bullpen before the game, and I'm not sure who was catching him, but I don't think it was a normal guy who catches R.A. Dickey, because he was flopping all over the place trying to catch that butterfly that he throws.
What? The count's now full. Rene Rivera will be next. And ball 4. Well, the fastball a little bit wide right there. A good at bat for Elmore, and we've seen him work some good at bats. Second walk given up by Hutchison. Rivera at 161 with 3 home runs and 15 runs batted in. The right side, that's foul.
The aforementioned 2 starts he made in Boston where he got hit around, he did not have great control. 3 walks in 1 start, 5 walks in the other. Averages a walk and a half per start, but he looked like he could have walked Asdrubal Cabrera to start the inning and then did walk Jake Elmore. So command a little bit of an issue here in this inning and this early on in this game.
Yeah, and he was not sharp in the first inning, still trying to find his command and settle in. A little tapper jumped on by Navarro, whose throw to first is in time, and up to second goes Elmore. So Elmore is in scoring position for the top of the order. Kevin Kiermaier singled to start the Rays first and scored the run, giving him 3 for 5 in his young career against Drew Hutchison. Pitch is too low. Hutchison had to overcome some elbow surgery and got completely healthy last year. He made 32 starts for this club. Gave him over 180 innings. Close. Ball 2, 2-0.
I think Hutchison's getting a little frustrated on pitches that are just off. You mentioned earlier, Kerwin Danley tends to favor the hitters, and we've seen that early tonight.
That's a strike. 2-1.
See the second pitch just a little bit low. That pitch, could have called that one either way.
This one down around his feet, skipping to the backstop. And over to third goes Elmore.
Just completely yanks this fastball. There you see the grip. Just a 4-seam fastball. Somehow Kiermaier got out of the way of it, but that was missed badly.
Liner, base hit. That will get the run home, and the Rays take a 2-1 lead. That was off speed. And Kiermaier lined it over the head of Kawasaki.
That was off speed, and I think that's why it was frustrating to Drew Hutchison, because he bent over after this hit. He throws a changeup off the plate. He's thinking, all right, if I walk this guy, I'll deal with the next guy with a fresh count, Joey Butler. But instead, Kiermaier goes after that changeup off the plate and singles into right field. He continues to stay hot against this Toronto right-hander.
2 for 2 tonight with a run scored and now a run batted in. Joey Butler with a chance. Ground ball toward the middle, and that gets past Reyes into center. Kiermaier is going to go to third to throw back into second. First and third. Reyes just couldn't get there.
You anticipate Reyes at least knocking this ball down. This ball had some top spin off the bat of Butler, but watch Reyes track it. Looks like he's going to get there and at least knock it down, if not have a play at second, and he just can't get the glove low enough, and Butler ends up with a base hit.
There was a time in his career when that was a routine play.
And that's one that off the bat You thought he was going to be able to make the play and maybe get Hutchison out of the inning, and instead he misses it. Now the Rays rally continues.
Evan Longoria with a chance.
Longoria, we talked about in his first at bat, sees some sliders from Hutchison. They're going to have to be very careful not to bounce one because Kiermaier takes advantage of anything in the dirt.
An opening fastball in this at bat for a strike. Rays have retaken the lead. That's a foul ball. Well, the Rays have the best record in the major leagues on the road. They're 21-12. And they've won 4 of their last 5 here at the Trop to get to the break-even point at home. They are 19-19 at home, and now they'd like to have a little run so that home record would show the advantage of playing here. One and two, up and in with the fastball.
So 0-2 fastball up and in, and you see what the Rays have done the last 22 games, averaging almost 4 runs a game in that 16-6 record. You would think that up and in fastball has them set up for a slider away.
And it's off the plate with a fastball. 2-2.
Good take there by Longoria.
And so far, that slider for Hutchison has not been a go-to pitch for him in the early part of this game.
I think the Kiermaier on third is a factor.
A little soft looper into center. That's a base hit. The run scores. Butler heads to third. He's in there safely. And the Rays now lead 3-1. And I think he went off speed with a changeup again to Longoria. So the RBI singles by Kiermaier and Longoria have been on the off-speed pitch.
Trying to get him on the outside part of the plate. Longoria breaks his bat, doesn't hit it hard, but he's able to get enough of it into center field. Butler going first to third, forcing Pilar to throw on the run.
Yeah, that was more of a cutter or a slider attempt there that stayed up. And you could see Evan reaching for it and dropping it into center.
He's his first hit against Hutchison.
That's exactly right. He's now 1 for 12, and he drives in a run with that. So into center for the base hit. First and third again. This time for David DeJesus. Foul back. Strike one.
You mentioned right before that RBI hit that the slider hasn't been a big weapon. And you can see there, it wasn't a wipeout slider. It was trying to get away from Longoria, but he had enough of the bat on the barrel to break his bat and send it into center field.
Yeah, it's more of a sweep than it is that late break that you'd like. It's down around the feet of David DeJesus.
That would have been a better pitch to Longoria on the 2-2 pitch.
That's exactly what you'd like there. Ahead in the count. 1-1 now to David DeJesus. Two and one.
The thing you have to be concerned with if you're John Gibbons is that. I mean, his pitch count's already at 55 right now. They just brought a couple of replacement bullpen arms from the minor leagues after a long series with the Orioles.
He's thrown one more strike than balls. 28-27 his breakout. 2-2. Pitch foul back. The Blue Jays off a 13-9 loss to Baltimore. They used 8 pitchers in that game yesterday.
Their starter got knocked out early. So they had to cover a lot of innings.
Now ball 3, full count. And 3 of those pitchers they used yesterday are now gone.
That's right. The starter, Scott Copeland, also Phil Koch, the lefty, was sent down after the game. They also sent down the righty Ryan Tepera.
3-2. Oh, and DeJesus is hit by that pitch. That's going to load the bases. DeJesus back up.
Fans are booing, but it's obvious Hutchison just does not have command. Navarro's at the point now where he's setting up in the middle of the plate, and that was a slider that just headed right towards the front ankle of DeJesus and caught him just above the ankle, right around the shin.
Well, those command issues still very much evident here for Hutchison. And now it'll be Logan Forsythe.
Blue Jays are already going to start stirring in their bullpen.
And that's Rob Rasmussen, who just came up. Hutchison gets a strike on Forsythe. Outside, missed with the slider. It's 1-1.
We saw Logan walk on 4 pitches his first time up, and he did not chase that slider the first 2 times he saw it. Didn't chase there.
Cut and a miss, and a pretty good pitch right there.
That was probably one of his best 2 or 3 sliders he's thrown tonight.
Rays have scored twice. An opportunity for more. 2 outs in the inning. Two balls, 2 strikes. Steven Souza Jr. hoping to get a chance to bat in this inning. Check swing and a foul ball to keep the bat going for Logan Forsythe. And Logan also is the kind of guy out there, if you've got a pitcher with some command issues, he can be tough because he'll extend at bats against pitchers who have good command. Oh, strike 3 called. He dropped that one in there. Got him looking on the slider to retire the side. The Rays settle for 2 and lead 3-1. Evan Longoria picking up one of the RBIs in the bottom of the second. Come out Sunday when the Rays take on the Red Sox. Kids 14 and under receive a retro Evan Longoria 10 lunchbox presented by Bright House Networks while supplies last. And after the game, stay for the concert from Kids Bop Kids. For tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. Kevin Pillar to open the third. And the first pitch is a fastball up, strike one. Pillar, Kawasaki, and Reyes. Nothing in two. Up out of the zone, taken for a ball, 1-2. Kawasaki on deck, making sure that he's limber and loose and ready. 2-2 to Pillar. Pillar's been hot as well. You could almost pick anybody in their lineup. He's at 388 for close to a month now. Right near the end of May, he started to get hot. Down the right field side, Souza Jr. into foul territory. And as he just approached the mound, he made the catch and then had to run up the mound. That's the first out.
We saw Steven Souza Jr. make two really nice catches on that road trip. One in Washington right along the fence there in foul territory, and then one in Cleveland where he made a great catch and ended up doubling up with the runner at first base to get the Rays out of what could have been potentially a jam.
Well, he knew that he was headed toward the bullpen, but his eyes never left the ball. Kawasaki takes a strike.
One of the funniest guys in baseball.
He's a man in motion. He is the perpetual motion machine.
Even on that first strike, he's like, okay, yes, that was a strike. Nope, not that one.
1-1 the count. The fans in Toronto love him. Two balls and a strike.
If Kerwin Danley's not sure how his calls are going, Kawasaki is either agreeing or disagreeing, but he's agreed with all three calls so far. He has a head nod for every pitch.
And he pops it into short center. There's Kiermaier. Two gone.
Shortstop, Jose Reyes.
Base is empty, and here's Jose Reyes. Takes the pitch wide.
Matt's been pretty good with his control so far tonight through the first two innings plus this third. The times he has missed, he's missed arm side away from the lefties, in on the righties, but he's been hitting Renee's glove on a pretty consistent basis.
And right there on the corner for a strike. 1-1.
Rene sets up on the outer half, and that's where he puts it. Maybe a shade off the plate, but when the catcher sets up there, sometimes he gets a call.
Shot to right field. Souza Jr. back, and that one will go. That pitch cut into the wheelhouse of Jose Reyes, who hits his third home run of the year, and it's 3-2.
Well, you mentioned in his first at bat, Dwayne, he's been hitting better left-handed. All three of his home runs have come left-handed. He's now batting over .330 from the left side. The 1-1 pitch, a little changeup that stays up, and Reyes took care of it.
So a 2-out home run for Reyes. And the pitch to Jose Bautista is outside. 4th home run given up by Andres. Fly ball into center. That'll be Kiermaier to make the catch. 1 run on the home run. We go to the bottom half of the 3rd. It's 3-2 Rays. Jose Reyes hitting his 3rd home run of the year in the top of the inning to make it a 1-run ball game. And the Rays come into bat in the bottom half of the 3rd with Steven Souza Jr. stepping in to hit against Drew Hutchison. And that first pitch is in there, taken for a strike on a slider. That slider has been an inconsistent pitch for him tonight, but he made a couple pretty good ones near the end of the 2nd inning. And he comes out with a couple here in the 3rd and quickly jumps ahead of Souza Jr. And he strikes him out looking. Couple sliders and then the fastball away. So 1 away here in the 3rd. Let's check in with Rich Hollenberg. Rich?
Thanks, Dwayne. The news continues to be good for Jake Odorizzi. He pitched today earlier here at the Trop, threw about 40 pitches, which he says is more than he's ever thrown in a regular BP session. He said he felt fine afterwards. It's going to be a building process for him. So going forward, he's going to have an off day tomorrow. He'll throw more BP Wednesday, live BP Saturday, and according to Dr. Odorizzi, he thinks he'll be back pitching for the Rays in 2 weeks. So when you factor in Matt Moore's ascension from the rehab and DL, we could be seeing Moore and Odorizzi before the All-Star break, guys.
That would be a great couple of additions to the Rays. There's a high fly ball back toward the left field corner, and that ball will be caught by Colabello. He wasn't really sure as he started to head toward the corner as Cabrera lofted that towering fly ball. And you get down and start to factor the low wall and the curvature of the wall. You're thinking maybe it's got a chance, but Colabello went over there and caught it.
Yeah, it jumped at the last minute, and then he's jarred by the wall. If this ball gets jarred out of his glove and goes over the wall, that is a home run. Instead, he held on.
Jake Elmore down the right side out of play. Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, that would have been one of the more incredible home runs in Tropicana Field history. But he hit the wall hard, and the glove's above the yellow line. If this ball falls out, Rays lead 4-2. But he was able to keep it in the mitt.
Those big outfielder gloves swallow a fly ball like that. 1-1 to count. Elmore taking a fastball out of the zone. And that puts him behind in the count.
When you compare where Odorizzi is now and where Alex Cobb was last year after his oblique injury in Cincinnati, Odorizzi is a little more than a week ahead of schedule from where Cobb was. So that's a good sign. Everything points to seeing him before the All-Star break.
Well, it's been an amazing process to watch with the Rays putting this pitching staff together in the face of all the injuries and it being as effective as it has been. And you really have to give Jim Hickey a lot of credit for the job he's done. Drew Smiley, he hopes to be back before the year is out. Into right field, that's a base hit, gets by Carrera. That's going to go all the way to the wall. Elmore rounding second, heads for third, and the throw is going to get it. Munenori Kawasaki turned and made the throw to third. And so Elmore is out trying to go all the way to third when that ball skipped by Carrera. See Elmore taking the trip around first and seeing it get by Carrera. And Valencia had the ball waiting. Matt Andriese to the hill. Out there to work the fourth inning. Through three. He's given up a couple of runs on 2 hits, a double to Navarro, and a home run by Jose Reyes. Edwin Encarnacion leads off the fourth against Andriese. And a cut and a miss, strike one.
The Rays have a shift of Encarnacion like most teams, but keep an eye on Jake Elmore. I mean, he is way off the bag here. For a guy who's learning to play first base, he's going to have to hustle to get to the bag.
0-2. Big uppercut from Encarnacion. Down to third, Longoria will make the throw. And Encarnacion is the first out on the chopper to third base.
Full sprint for Elmore, finds the bag, and the Rays record the out. That's an unnerving feeling if you haven't played a lot of first base, is to play that far off the bag and knowing you're going to have to hustle to get there for a ground ball.
You know, Elmore Got credit for a double before he was thrown out trying to go to third to end the bottom of the third. So any sprint might be a little challenging here for a little while anyway.
Still breathing heavily after that inning-ending throw out at third base.
1-1 to count to Deoner Navarro, whose double in the second inning led to the first run of the game for Toronto. And there's a long one to right. That ball is going to be gone. Home run for Deoner Navarro. That's his first home run of the year. And it ties the game at 3.
Navarro hasn't hit much since coming back off the DL from the hamstring injury, just 4 for 25 coming into tonight, but he has hit well tonight, a double and now a home run. And the Blue Jays have only had 3 base runners all night, but 2 of them have been home runs, and all 3 of those base runners have scored. Fastball in the outer half, and Navarro deposits it into section 146.
Well, Navarro hitting cleanup, and he's taking that role seriously, apparently, with a double and a home run and 2 runs scored tonight. Here's Colabello hitting one hard through the right side. Takes the fastball the other way.
You know, the amazing thing about that stat, Hutchison's 8 runs of support a game, is that it's while he's in the game. Not 8 runs a game that he starts. 8 runs of support a game while he's in the game. And the Blue Jays are trying to keep him in this game after he allowed 3 in the first 2 innings.
Well, it's tied. And here's Carrera, who had that ball off the bat of Elmore skip by him and go to the wall. And he's after the first pitch, fouling it away. So a home run, a single, and now a foul ball as Cabrera goes after the first pitch. And these Blue Jays are aggressive up there.
They are hunting fastball early in the count this time around, especially this inning.
Did he go? Yes, he did, says Joe West, who's the crew chief down there at third base. And he did go, and plenty. 1 out, a run home, and a man at first in a tie game in the 4th. A ball and 2 strikes. Phillies have put up 3. It's 4 in the bottom half, 3rd inning in New York. 4-2. We did, and we lost a few lights.
16th Street substation. Joe West has seen this before. It's probably new to Kevin Cash, although it may have happened when he was here with Cleveland. But we have seen Tropicana Field take these power surges as we get into the middle of summer. Yesterday was a summer solstice. And this time of year, this occasionally happens at Tropicana Field.
So Joe West goes over to the Rays dugout looking for some information. You saw the bank of lights. And the lighting here is somewhat diminished, but you know, this is almost as if a cloud had drifted in front of the sun in any other ballpark.
I have seen games halted because of that one bank of lights, but I think you can play in this if both teams agree. I don't think it's diminished, like you said, to the point where you can't see the baseball or do any harm to the players. So I would say if Kevin Cash and John Gibbons agree, you can play on, although Joe West now conferring with Scott Kellerman about how long this might take to refurbish the bank of lights that went out.
Well, I think Joe West is of a mind to continue this game.
Yes.
He talked with the Rays dugout, and he has a little thumbs up from John Gibbons in the Blue Jays dugout. They're going to continue until this cloud moves out of the way of the sun, and in this case a rogue power surge has diminished a few banks of lights here, but Joe West says that's not going to stop this game.
I like it. That is a Joe West decision right there.
Listen, he's a take charge guy.
I'm not waiting 20 minutes for these lights to come back on.
So it's a 1-2 count to Carrera. So just a couple-minute delay here while they conferred and made the executive decision to continue. Pitch is low. 2-2. One on, one out, 2-2 the count in a tie game. Ground ball second. Forsythe to Cabrera and over to first in time with a 4-6-3 double play. One run on the home run by Navarro. The double play ends the top half of the inning. We're tied 3-3.
Anybody need some tires? The magic number's 4.
Coming in on that double play, the throw caught part of his hand.
Great turn by the Rays, first of all. Forsythe to his left, a perfect feed. And as Asdrubal Cabrera throws that little three-quarter sidearm, and in doing so, Colabella doesn't get his hand out of the way. It clips either his pinky finger or his ring finger, one of those outside two fingers on his left hand, which already has a guard on it. So that didn't feel very good. If you're a runner, you've got to get out of the way when a guy's turning a double play, or you could get clipped.
Rene Rivera leads off and fouls the first pitch back into the screen for a strike.
And of course, Kiermaier caught it on the fly before it bounced, because he's always hustling, even when he's on deck.
Strike the count to Rivera. Then top of the order, Kiermaier and Butler. Drew Hutchison in the third inning showed some signs of getting a little better command. He struggled with that in the first couple innings, and Rivera swings and misses the slider there, and that was a good one.
His slider's been better as the game's gone along. He didn't have a good slider those first couple of innings when he got in trouble. He's already at 78 pitches, and his high on the season is 105.
2-2. And against right-handed hitters, he's pretty much fastball slider.
He loves that slider ahead of the count, 0-2, 1-2, over 50% of the time against righties when he gets to those counts.
Lifted towards short right. Carrera will come in. He's got it for the out. One down in the bottom of the fourth inning. Let's check in now with Emily Austin. Emily?
Dwayne, it is that time of year again, the 10th annual Rays on the Runway. I'm excited to announce that I am emceeing the event with DJ Fresh. It is going to be great. The Rays wives and girlfriends put on the event, put on, you know, some baskets together for the players. I was talking with Jake McGee before the game. He's already been fitted for 2 separate outfits. So he's excited. All of it benefits the Children's Dream Fund. If you want more information, you can go to childrensdreamfund.org. And there'll be some dream children walking the runway as well.
Well, it's a festive evening and for a great cause. And we would encourage you to attend. Kiermaier breaks his bat and rolls out unassisted to Edwin Encarnacion, the first baseman. So couple of quick outs in the fourth inning for Hutchison. Joey Butler. A little bit outside, 1-0. Just missed. 2-0. Fastball fouled back.
Well, we mentioned this was a clash of styles. The Rays allowing 2 runs or less in over half of their games prior to tonight. The Blue Jays averaging 5.5 runs a game with their prolific offense. Right now, we're kind of in between those two.
Now it's 2-2.
And the Blue Jays offense, like the Rays offense, has been used often lately. John Gibbons has gone to the bullpen a lot, but they haven't been as successful as the Rays bullpen has recently.
Well, the other side of that equation is exactly that. The Toronto pitching, the only team in the American League with a higher team ERA is Boston at 4.46. The Blue Jays are at 4.27, 14th in the league. That will be a base hit over the head of Kawasaki into right center, and Butler has his second hit. 2-out base hit will get Evan Longoria to the plate.
All he does is hit, and a nice smile at first base for Joey Butler. 2 hits on the night. This one to right field, kind of got in on his hands, but strong enough to get it out. Kawasaki jumped. If he made this play, he wasn't even close. But he's got to give it the effort there. But Joey can hit. That's what Kevin Cash tells everybody.
Kawasaki, the eternal optimist on that attempt.
Yes.
So here's Longoria. Drove in a run with a base hit in the second. Fouls it up the right side, out of play. Strike one. Rays with 3 runs and 7 hits. They picked up 3 stolen bases in the first inning. Club record is 4 in any one inning. Fly ball for Carrera in right field. The Rays are finished. We've gone through 4 innings tonight at Tropicana Field. Rays and the Jays tied. Round up the girls and head to the ballpark for Girls Night Out Friday, June 26th. The Rays battle the Red Sox, and all women receive a Rays cowboy hat presented by Outback Steakhouse while supplies last. Girls Night Out gets even better as the night goes on with drink specials. For tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. Looking for that hat and the special right now. We go to the fifth. Let's call in Todd Callis. Todd?
Dwayne, thank you. Danny Valencia will lead off for the Toronto Blue Jays here in a tie game. Valencia grounds the first pitch of the fifth inning on 2 hops to Asdrubal Cabrera, and he's retired for the second time on a grounder to short by Matt Andriese.
Center fielder, Kevin Pillar.
Andriese at 58 pitches. His season high at the major league level is 85. His season high, including the minors, is 88. The Rays here in the fifth inning already have bullpen action with Ronald Belisario, who did a real nice job in his first 2 outings for the Rays on that road trip.
Boy, he's something special, what he showed us on that road trip.
And he is showing that his stuff plays for multiple innings. 2 innings in Washington, 2 innings in Cleveland. Kevin Pillar, the batter. Little cue shot, just foul. That could have been trouble as Elmore was well off the bag, but instead Andriese ahead of the count, 0-2.
The fact that Pillar is hitting 8th and has been as hot as he's been shows you how good this offense has been for a long time now for the Blue Jays.
Last 10 games plus tonight, Pillar 17 for 40 with 2 home runs and 7 runs batted in, batting 8th in John Gibbons' lineup. But Andriese ahead, no balls and 2 strikes. Blue Jays have been very efficient tonight. They have not left a runner on base. 2 home runs and a leadoff double by Diana Navarro that came around to score. Navarro has one of those 2 home runs. Jose Reyes has the other. The Rays have left 6 on. Toronto has not left a man on to this point here in the fifth. Foul tip caught by Rivera. That's a strikeout for Matt Andriese. He picked up a strikeout in the first. That's his second on the night. Tomorrow, MLB on FS1 returns as Matt Carpenter and the NL Central leading Cardinals take on Giancarlo Stanton and the Marlins in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
That strikeout of Pillar, another example of Andriese not afraid to go up with the fastball and try to finish off a hitter, and that's what he did.
And Pillar not happy. Called strike to Munenori Kawasaki. Kawasaki flied out to center field his first time up. On the ground, easy inning it should be for Andriese, and it is as Cabrera takes care of Kawasaki. He needed just 7 pitches in that inning to retire the Blue Jays. We go to the bottom of the fifth. brought to you by Checkers. Get Checkers authentic Philly cheesesteak or try the new meatball sub. Pick yours, 2 for $5 by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Sea-Doo. Sea-Doo Spark is the most affordable watercraft on the water. David DeJesus will lead things off as Matt Andriese is through 5 with a very efficient 7-pitch 5th inning. And the Rays will try and give him the lead once again with DeJesus, Logan Forsythe, and Steven Souza Jr. duo. David took a pitch off his right shin his last time up. Also has a single and a stolen base in this game. And the run batted in. Dove in the Rays' first run with a 2-out single. Rays led 3-1. We're now tied at 3, headed to the bottom half of the 5th.
And Todd with Hutchison, who racked up so many pitches early and now moving into the 5th inning. There is action in the bullpen. That's Todd Redmond, who just rejoined the Blue Jays today.
We saw Rob Rasmussen, the lefty, up earlier. He was just recalled. Now Redmond is loosening. Foul territory should be playable for Valencia, and it is, as DeJesus pops up for the first out here in the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, they have Valencia in the lineup today, and coming into this game, he hasn't had much of a chance to play because the Big Bopper has played every game until now.
Yeah, Josh Donaldson plays day in, day out. Only the second game he hasn't started, but the other game he came in for defense, and Donaldson getting a rare night off. Occasionally Donaldson will get a DH day, but Toronto just coming off a homestand, a quick 3-game trip here in St. Petersburg, and then they go right back home again. So it's turf, turf, turf. That's why Russell Martin, Josh Donaldson getting a day off.
And Donaldson's overall presence, as much as anything, I mean, he's a solid run producer, covers a lot of ground at third, a very aggressive third baseman. And he, I think more than anybody on this team, has tried to change the mindset and get them over the hump.
See what he's done this year. He has played in all 70 games, getting a night off tonight. We may see him eventually in this game. As Logan Forsythe slices one foul, Carrera gives it a look, but into the crowd. That's a big bat to add to what was already an opposing middle of the lineup with Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion. And Russell Martin has had a really nice year for them as well.
And they're all not afraid to have a little swagger when they come to the plate either. They're very aggressive and animated.
See, Drew Hutchison is approaching the 100 pitch plateau. He has gone over 100 pitches just occasionally this year. I mentioned his previous high this season was 105. That was in his last start against the Mets. And that was 5 days ago. He's gone over the 100 pitch count just 4 times this season. 1-2 pitch is way up high. It's 2-2. Actually had 106 in a start against Boston, 105 in his last start. So 106 is his high water mark for the year. So you wouldn't think he goes beyond the 5th if he gets through this inning. Forsythe adding to that pitch count, staying alive with 2 strikes. Logan was called out on strikes on a slider his last time up. Also walked and stole a base his first time. There's a slider, and Forsythe into right field. Base hit. Rays have a base hit in every inning, and Logan a 1-out base runner.
Well, that's so typical of the stretch Logan has been in. Actually, he's done that all year. He's worked great at bats. He's seen lots of pitches. He's kept at bats alive. And he went down to get that slider and hit it the other way.
That is a real nice piece of hitting. That was a tough pitch with 2 strikes on the 100th pitch of the night from Drew Hutchison. So here's Steven Souza. Hutchison has had Souza's number tonight, a couple of called third strikes, but Souza with a little revenge, a bullet up the middle for a base hit, back-to-back hits for the Rays. And runners on first and second with 1 out. John Gibbons wondering how much longer to stay with his starter.
Souza hitting first pitch fastball after taking a fastball and being called out on strikes in each of his first 2 times up there. Ready to swing the bat. We've seen him do this more. In fact, over this recent stretch, he's been better with contact as well. He's cut down on the strikeouts.
Yeah, making much better contact recently. His 2 strikeouts today were called strikes. But not the swing and miss rate is definitely reduced each month as the season has gone along. Here's Asdrubal Cabrera. He swings at the first pitch and fouls it at the plate, 0-1. Rays threatening again. One team has had a lot of threats, the Tampa Bay Rays. The other team has made the most of their opportunities, the Toronto Blue Jays. Rays left 2 on in the first, 3 on in the second. Had a runner thrown out at third to end the third. A runner left on in the fourth. 2 more on base here in the fifth. There's a called strike. Cabrera does not agree. It's 0-2.
Yeah, he thought the pitch was inside, and we'll see. Boy, that's just on the corner and just at the top of the zone.
So now it's 0-2, and Cabrera has to go into protect mode here. Called third strike, and Cabby didn't like strike 2 or strike 3, and he is going to be tossed.
And Kerwin Danley gave him the heave-ho in a hurry.
Kerwin took the mask off right away after Cabrera slammed his bat down and kind of engaged Cabrera, who now flips his helmet and his bat towards the foul line. He is not happy at all.
So the Rays lose their shortstop. And here's a look at that pitch. He didn't like the one prior to this. And you can see it's on the corner there, but he didn't like that.
Joe West is taking Cabrera's bat and helmet with him to the umpire's room, apparently. It was a quick toss.
It was very quick.
Here's Cabrera's reaction. That gets Kerwin to take his mask off.
He's been ejected by now.
Yep.
The ejection occurred before he ever turned around.
I don't think I've seen an umpire take the bat and the helmet, though. Usually the bat boy retrieves it, and the Rays maintain control of it. But there's Joe. He's like, you know what? You're not going to respect your equipment. I'll take it.
Yeah, that'll be part of the report. The physical evidence.
So 2 on, 2 outs now. Jake Elmore takes the slider for a called strike. 0-1. 1 out hits by Logan Forsythe and Steven Souza Jr. And now Asdrubal Cabrera called out on strikes and ejected from the game. First Rays player this season who has been tossed from a game. And the fans starting to get on Kerwin Danley as he calls that pitch out of the zone. 1-1.
Fourth time in Cabrera's career that he has been ejected. And the first Ray, as you pointed out, first time he's been ejected. First Ray to be ejected, as you mentioned.
The likely candidate would be Nick Franklin, who's not in the starting lineup today, taking over at shortstop. Could be a big time here for Jake Elmore to pick up his team with 2 outs. Runners on the move, and no throw from Deoner Navarro. 5 stolen bases in the game for the Rays, including 2 double steals.
We have seen the Rays under Kevin Cash just fall in love with a double steal. It's almost a nightly occurrence. And here it is again. And Navarro didn't feel like he had anywhere to go.
There was no check of the runners by Hutchison. And the Rays have more steals today than Hutchison had allowed in his 14 starts all season long prior to tonight. 4. Tonight they have 5. Elmore 2-1 pitch. Chops foul. You're right. The Rays and double steals. There's certain trends we're seeing with Kevin Cash, and the double steal is definitely one of them. Two runners in scoring position. Forsythe on third. Souza Jr. on second. Jake Elmore has walked and doubled to right field. Tried to hold up. Appeal, swung, says the first base umpire. Rob Drake calls out Elmore on a swing. Elmore's had some tough luck the last couple of days with check swings. One in Cleveland. That definitely wasn't a swing. How about this one? Pretty close, but they call him for the swing. Two-out base hit in the first inning. Got the Rays on the board first, 1-0. Then Evan Longoria would add to that lead as the Rays scored 2 in the second. It was 3-1 at that point. But solo home runs for the Blue Jays get them back in it as Jose Reyes makes it a 3-2 game in the third with a solo shot, his third of the year and the first of the season for the former Ray Deoner Navarro. Ties it up in the fourth. That's where we stand, 3-3 as we head to inning number 6. Nick Franklin is the new shortstop in place of Asdrubal Cabrera, who is ejected by the home plate umpire Kerwin Danley. Here's a first pitch swing by Jose Reyes. High pop-up, playable. Jake Elmore makes the play for the first out of this inning. Well, Elmore was called for a swing yesterday in Cleveland and then again today. And the difficulty when you're a first baseman is then you go out and play that position right next to the umpire.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I think there was a miscarriage of justice. You could argue in both cases. Yesterday, no question. And today,
close.
Yeah, it was close, but I think in the heat of the ejection in the moment, it went against the Rays.
And to his credit, watching him yesterday, he did not say one word to Tim Timmons at first base when he went out to field his position, because that was a little more egregious. Here's a ball chopped foul, and it's 0-2 to Jose Bautista. So Matt Andriese working through the lineup for the third time. Has only allowed 4 base runners tonight. Unfortunately, 3 of them have scored. The other one was wiped out on a double play. 2 home runs and a leadoff double by Deoner Navarro that came around to score. 4 hits, no walks for Andriese, and he struck out 2. Bautista does not chase there. It's 1-2.
That's only 68 pitches for him.
He has pounded the zone for 49 strikes of his 68.
It's Aaron Loop busy down in the bullpen.
One of the 2 strikeouts was the first time Andriese faced Bautista. Jose has also flied out to center 0 for 2. This is a ball hit a long way to left. Jesus goes back and looks up. This is on the tarp beyond the stands in left center field. A bomb from Jose Bautista to give Toronto its first lead of the night.
Well, we'll take a look at this pitch as it cuts over the middle of the plate into his wheelhouse, and that's what Bautista can do to a ball.
Like a slider that didn't have much bite, just kind of spun in there, and Bautista hit it a long way. 3 solo home runs allowed by Matt Andriese, and that will be the last batter he faces, as Jose Bautista, on his 15th home run of the year, has given Toronto a 4-3 lead. Andriese looking on as he is lifted in this game with 1 out in the 6th inning. Andriese had allowed 3 home runs all season long between the Rays and the Durham Bulls in 50 1/3 innings prior to tonight. And tonight the Blue Jays get him 3 times.
Yeah, and if you're going to give him up, make him solo home runs, and that's what he did. Reyes, Navarro, and Bautista. And now the Rays are down by a run.
He gave up a home run to Reyes on a changeup. Fastball to Navarro and a slider that backed up to Bautista as Ronald Belisario takes over for the Rays here in the 6th inning. He has been very impressive in his first 2 outings for the Rays. Belisario throws that heavy sinker slider guy. That sinker comes in around 92, 93. Kurt Casale, who caught him a bunch at Durham, said that pitch is as heavy as any pitch he catches all year long. That pitch was kind of fooled Rene Rivera. It missed. I'm not sure where, but it's 1-2. Two and 2 the count. Belisario went 2 innings in each of his outings on the road trip. 1 outing in Washington, 1 outing in Cleveland. Again, the Rays bullpen is a little bit under duress tonight, so they may ask him to go more than an inning again tonight if he can. See how this plays out as he works now to a full count after being ahead 0-2. Yonder Navarro has done some damage against his former team tonight. A double and a home run, a couple of runs scored. He's on deck. It's up to the bullpens now as Matt Andriese is out of the game after 5 1/3 innings. And for the Blue Jays, their starter, Drew Hutchison. Hey, that's a great one-handed catch. That was a pretty hard hit line drive, and that man just stood up and one hand snagged it like he had a glove on. Close. Belisario wanted the call, doesn't get it. And a nice at bat for Encarnacion to draw the walk.
This is the first walk given up by Rays pitching, and I'm going to tell you that was a strike.
Well, Dwayne,
That's a great pitch right there.
I see a few in the strike zone there, and that one was not called a strike. Belisario got ahead 0-2 with the first two pitches. There was one fouled off that was in the zone, and then that one was not called a strike. That could have been. Now the Rays look for two with Dioner Navarro at the plate. There's a called strike, 0-1. Navarro, coming off that hamstring injury, had been 4 for 25 on the season since coming back from the DL. But tonight, a double down the left field line and a home run into right center field. If the Rays are to turn two on Navarro, it will be the unconventional method because Longoria is the only infielder on the left side of the infield. So more than likely he would take the toss on a ground ball to the right side. Navarro stays alive, and Rivera took that one. Started limp coming out of the crouch.
Yeah, that's the second one he's had to try to walk off tonight. And that one right, direct hit to the knee. Oh. Yes, you've got the shin guards and all the protection, but you still feel that one, a direct hit.
And you know the hitter, Dioner Navarro, can relate to it. In fact, he was outside the batter's box for a while, making sure Rene had all the time he needed to feel okay. Belisario on for Matt Andrees. Allowed a walk to Edwin Encarnacion, the first batter he faced. Now ahead of Navarro, 1 ball and 2 strikes. You will get a lot of foul balls at the feet of hitters with that heavy sinker, and Navarro stays alive.
And Navarro had a hamstring issue that put him on the disabled list. Just recently back.
Little cue shot that's going to find the open space in center field. A base hit for Navarro. He's now 3 for 3. Kiermaier throws behind the runner, and Encarnacion dives back in. So Dioner Navarro, a double, a home run, and now a single. Didn't get a lot of it, but enough to get it into the outfield.
He was one of his last 16 coming into this game, and now 3 for 3.
Saw him do the sign about stirring it up, and then he shook his hand. He said that at bat was not fun. He took that heavy sinker off the end of the bat. Like, wow. Here's Chris Colabello. Colabello is grounded out and singled. The Blue Jays really haven't had a lot of threats in terms of runners on base. 3 solo home runs. The double by Navarro, who scored with the next batter, Colabello, on a ground out after a wild pitch. And now this inning, they finally have runners on first and second.
Well, they were 0 for 1 with men in scoring position, and they have one out there now.
0 for 1. How about that? With a run batted in. There's a strike, and Belisario ahead 0-2. So Ronald was ahead of Encarnacion 0-2, ahead of Navarro 1-2, and now ahead of Colabello 0-2.
Chris Colabello in the dugout before this at bat. You see putting some extra padding down there to help out with that finger when he was clipped by the throw from Cabrera on the double play. That was in the 4th inning.
Chopper foul. Longoria gloves it in foul territory.
So he's staying in and swinging the bat, but that was a long procedure to try to get it just right for him so he could swing the bat this time around.
Toronto with a single run in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 1 so far here in the 6th. Rays trying to keep it right there. Belisario misses. Outside, it's 1-2. Mentioned earlier, this Toronto offense, top to bottom, not only the best in baseball, but the best by far in baseball. 67 more runs than the New York Yankees, who are 2nd in the major leagues in runs scored, and they have the best run differential of any team.
Well, in their game yesterday, they got down 7-0 at the end of an inning and a half and scored 6 in the 2nd and another run in the 3rd to tie that game.
This ball's hit well to left field. De Jesus back, still going back. It's off the wall. Encarnacion will trot home. Navarro is being held up. It's a 2-run lead for the Blue Jays, 5-3 on the RBI double by Chris Colabello.
Colabello with that bad hand and all. Got a pitch on the inner half, and with that strength he drives it to the wall. De Jesus trying to get back there but just could not catch up with it.
Here's a guy, Colabello, that was called up May 5th. We're now late June, so about a month and 2 weeks. He has 26 RBIs now, with 2 RBIs tonight. It's a very impressive 6.5, 7-week stretch for Chris Colabello for the Toronto Blue Jays, hitting about .350 during this time as well.
Well, he's done here in Toronto what he did when he first surfaced with the Twins.
Rays bring the infield in for the first time. Belisario's fallen behind a hitter. He was ahead of all 3 hitters in this inning, but he's allowed 3 base runners. A walk to Encarnacion after being ahead 0-2. A single by Diana Navarro down in the count 1-2. Colabello was down 0-2 before he sent that 1-2 pitch off the left field wall. Ezequiel Carrera, the batter here, grounds it with the drawn in infield. It skips past Logan Forsythe. Navarro scores. Colabello being held, and the Blue Jays tack on another run. It's now a 3-run 6th inning, and it's 6-3 Toronto.
Well, with the infield in, Forsythe trying to move a couple steps there to his left, and that ball just skipped beneath his glove, trying to get it down there to make the grab. And that's 5 men in a row to reach here in the 6th inning.
Eddie Romero will start to loosen in the Rays bullpen. He's more of the long guy out there. With the Rays trailing 6-3, he may get extended innings tonight if the Rays do call on his number. But it's now 6-3 game as Toronto has scored 3 in this inning. 1 charge to the starter, Matt Andriese, the other 2 to Belisario.
Number 23, Manny Lancey.
Technically, Drew Hutchison is still in the game, although it's apparent he will leave the game after 5 innings and 109 pitches. But these runs count as his runs, so the 8 runs per start average while he's in there, still they're not there yet.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
8 runs while he's in the game per start. And tonight they have 6 and runners on first and third with 1 out. That is unbelievable support. He did get better as the game went along after allowing 3 runs the first 2 innings. And here's a strike to Danny Valencia.
Well, here's a situation now for the Rays, though, because the Blue Jays bullpen has been an issue, and certainly that as of late. So if they can put a stop to this, there's still a long way to go to try to get to their bullpen.
The Toronto bullpen has allowed 12 runs in their last 11 innings of work. Baltimore did a lot of damage against the Blue Jays bullpen, and one of the reasons why you're seeing some new faces in the bullpen, a couple of guys being sent out. 1-1 to count on Valencia. Now it's 2-1. Belisario has already thrown 28 pitches and he has not recorded an out yet. Rays hoping for a ground ball to try and get out of this inning in turn 2. There's a chopper. Is it hit hard enough? Longoria, nice scoop, but he only has the 1 play to first. As another run scores, it's now a 7-3 Toronto lead.
Well, his instincts told him to go down to second because he really, with his heart, wanted to try to get 2. But the head took over here, and he said, there's no way I can get the guy there. And he takes the out and gives up the run.
So many plays Evan makes. That one's one of them, and you can see he didn't quite have the grip on the baseball. And there was about 3 or 4 on that road trip. So many plays he makes that he makes look easy that are not easy plays. That was not an easy pick on that second hop. Toronto now with a 7-3 lead as Kevin Pillar digs in. He rips one towards the Blue Jays bullpen. That was quite a play by the Rays bat boy, saving the bullpen, gets a handshake or 2.
Yeah, he's turned in more than 1 outstanding plays here this year. And another one right there, some great hands.
Belisario misses. It's now 2-1 as he tried the slider on the outside corner. 32 pitches in for Ronald. Ball shot foul. With the left hand hitting Kawasaki on deck, you would think Belisario faces Pillar as his final batter no matter what. Hopefully it is to end the 6th inning. Runner on the move, and a swing and a miss, and the bat goes flying into the stands. That is a strikeout to end the inning. Everybody okay, it appears, here at Tropicana Field. And the Blue Jays score 4 in the inning and now lead at 7-3, heading to the bottom of the 6th. Half of the sixth. Blue Jays lead 7-3. Get your best 70s outfit together and go back in time when the Rays take on the Red Sox on Saturday, June 27th. It's Turn Back the Clock night. All fans receive a Rays retro headband presented by the Florida Department of Transportation. While supplies last, for tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com today. Rays up. Saw that Devil Rays jersey there in the middle of our shots. That was a little throwback, as the new pitcher for Toronto is the left-hander Aaron Loup.
Yeah, and we saw the headband modeled yesterday by our colleague Brian Anderson.
Did he wear it the whole game?
And most of the game, he did, with pride. Yeah, I think he looked really good in that. It's colorful, and if we ever do any more of those pre or post games outdoors,
yep,
he's wearing it then too.
0-2 to Rene Rivera. Aaron Loup, the lefty, delivers outside. Not many people can pull off the headband. You can't. That's a bad look. Not many people could pull off the headband. I think of Slick Watts, the former NBAer who used to wear a headband. And,
yep.
Jim Carrey's character, when he wore the headband playing basketball all the time, but B.A. can pull it off.
Yeah, he works it.
He can work it.
He sells it. It's believable.
Cable guy. He was the headband wearer, Jim Carrey. But yeah, B.A.'s got it. He's very comfortable. And I think he was mad at me as Rene Rivera takes a pitch inside. I think he was mad at me because I gave him the headband at the end of our pregame show. See, that's how mad he was.
Yeah, that's pretty mad.
Yeah, that was mad. That's right before he starts pointing a finger at you. And I gave him to him at the end of the pregame show, and he said I could have used this for the first two segments. 2-2 pitches in the dirt is 3-2. B.A., by the way, is just enjoying a little scheduled time off. We were in Cleveland. That's where he lives. So B.A. got to enjoy a little family time in the summer, and he will be back in the booth when the Rays take on the Boston Red Sox this weekend. As he look on at the starting pitcher today for the Blue Jays, Drew Hutchison, who goes 5 innings and allows 3 runs and gets 7 more runs of support. How about Rene Rivera's at bat? Down in the count, works a walk.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The Rays are down 7-3, so the damage is what it is in the top of this inning. But now they're going to wade into a bullpen that has been worked a lot and recently. So we'll see if they can make some headway here with his leadoff walk.
Kevin Kiermaier having a nice night. A couple of hits off the starter Hutchison. Also grounded out to first his last time up. Kevin has one of the 5 steals for the Rays tonight. The Rays had 5 steals against Drew Hutchison. He had only allowed 4 steals all season prior to tonight. Loup throws a heavy supply of fastballs, so drop in a change to lefties and a slider against righties. In the air towards center field. Reyes looks at it. It's over his head. Base hit. 3rd hit of the night for Kevin Kiermaier. And here come the Rays right back down 4.
Well, they're going to work against the bullpen. A leadoff walk. And now this Loup single into short center. And that's going to get John Gibbons out of the dugout. He already had the bullpen busy.
Loup had a long time to warm up last half inning and last just 2 batters. We'll tell you about the new pitcher when we come back. 7-3. Our T-Mobile game changer is Joey Butler's ability to hit the ball to all fields, especially opposite.
Well, you look at that, he tops the list. There's some pretty impressive hitters on that list. You get down to Cruz and Harper at the end. Any list with those guys figures to be pretty good. And Butler has been that and more for the Rays as he faces Todd Redmond, who's making his third stint here with the Blue Jays this year.
A lot of base hits up the middle. Right field is also a favored target. Not a lot of pull hits for Joey Butler as Todd Redmond delivers the first pitch up and in for a ball 1-0.
While Redmond was coming in, Butler got a pretty good scouting report on this Toronto right-hander. He's about 90, 91 with the fastball. He goes fastball, slider, and change. Heavy on that fastball.
Called strike, 1-1.
Eric Shelton gave him a little heads up on that scouting report, and Jake Elmore also part of that conversation.
Saw Redmond's limited appearances. This is his third stint with the Blue Jays. He has gone back and forth to Buffalo this season. There's a big swing, no contact. Redmond ahead, 1-2. Todd Redmond coming in with runners on first and second and nobody out. Returning to his hometown is Redmond, St. Petersburg native. Butler stays alive, and the ball stays lodged up above the net, above the door in the net.
Yeah, Butler was going for it on that last pitch. It was up.
Joe West does not like the baseball being lodged above the door in the net. He wants someone to take care of it. And that someone will be Evan Longoria with help from Scott Kellerman. We've got Scott Kellerman's name in twice in the broadcast today. That's the first. So now Joe West is pleased, and so are we as we continue action with 1-2 strikes. Rivera on second, Kiermaier on first, nobody out. Rays batting in the sixth. That's the only time Butler will take a break in his at bat is when you have a stoppage like a timeout on the field. If it's a pitch in the dirt like that, he stays right where his feet are. He does not move an inch. Called third strike. Butler disagrees. Kerwin Danley calls him out. We've already seen one Rays player ejected for arguing balls and strikes. Butler obviously did not think this was on the plate.
You see, he drops down a little bit, and did he get the corner? He did not. And Joey Butler had a legitimate complaint on that pitch. That was a ball.
So instead of a full count, now runners on first and second with one out, and Evan Longoria will bat. Longoria 1 for 3 on the night against Hutchison.
You know, the irony of this is that that pitch that Cabrera was called out on and ultimately ejected was a strike, but Elmore did not go on that check swing, and now Butler is called out on strikes on a pitch that was off the plate.
Redmond ahead of Longoria, 0-1. For Evan, that RBI in the second inning gave the Rays a 3-1 lead. Since then, it's been all Blue Jays as Toronto has scored 6 unanswered runs. Longoria with his 33rd run batted in of the year. He retook the lead in RBIs with that 3-run home run off Corey Kluber Saturday. He has 33 now. Logan Forsythe and Steven Souza Jr. with 31 apiece. In the air to right field, playable. Carrera drifts back in front of the track. He'll make the catch, and the runners will hold, and there's 2 away. So a couple big outs for Todd Redmond, just recalled from AAA Buffalo.
Phillies lead the Yankees in the top of the 6th in New York, 10-5. Michael Franco has had a big night, 4 for 4 with a couple of home runs and 5 runs batted in for the Phillies.
In a dismal season, Franco has been a lot of fun to watch for Phillies fans. Young third baseman made his debut just a few weeks ago, and he is producing for Ryan Sandberg. Now 2 outs and 2 on. And David DeJesus, the batter. Pitch away from Redmond, 1-0. Redmond, a Northside Christian product. Also went to St. Petersburg College, formerly known as SPJC, St. Pete Junior College. Pitch away, it's 2-0. 7-3 Toronto. And the run support for Drew Hutchison actually reduced from the season average from 8 a game to now in the high 7s. Did not quite meet his average tonight.
They just got 7.
2-1 as DeJesus fouls it away. There is Drew, who would be in line for the win if the Blue Jays maintain this lead. Replaced by Aaron Loop, the lefty, who did not retire either batter he faced, and now Todd Redmond on. Redmond originally selected by the Pirates in the draft and traded to the Atlanta Braves for Kirby Yates' brother Tyler back in 2008. And traded to Cincinnati before being claimed by the Blue Jays after the Orioles claimed him on waivers. So he's been on few organizations, made his debut with Cincinnati, but has pitched the last 2 seasons, plus this one, out of the Toronto bullpen. Did get some starts back in 2013 for the Jays. Rays look like they're going to stick with Andy Romero, who continues to loosen in the bullpen as the new pitcher in the 7th. Ronald Belisario threw a lot of pitches to get 2 outs in the 6th. 2-2 pitch is inside, and now the runners get a head start with DeJesus with a full count and 2 outs. Rivera on second, Kiermaier on first. Rays have left 8 on so far through 5 innings. The Blue Jays have left on just 1. In the total number of base runners department, advantage Rays. In the run score department, unfortunately, advantage Jays 7-3. Runners on the move, fly ball center field. Pilar drifts in, and that'll do it for the Rays in the 6th. So a couple of base runners to start the inning are stranded. Still 7-3 Toronto.
Baseball in Tampa Bay. Have you ever wondered how the world started?
Inning. Tonight's High Def highlight presented by H.H. Gregg. Jose Reyes hitting one of 3 solo home runs off Matt Andriese. Yonder Navarro hits the second. And with the game tied at 3, Jose Bautista took this slider deep in the left center field, all the way up beyond the stands. That gave the Jays a 4-3 lead. That would be the last batter Matt Andriese would face. And the Blue Jays would go on to score 3 more runs in that inning. They lead at 7-3. Here to take us the rest of the way, Dwayne Stats.
All right, Todd, thank you. Eddie Romero is the new pitcher for the Rays, making his 5th appearance in a Rays uniform. He'll face the number 9 hitter in the Toronto lineup, Yunonori Kawasaki, who is 0 for 2 with a fly ball to center and a ground ball to short. Romero's first pitch a strike, and this one hit up the middle, and a great pickup and throw out at first. Forsythe gets his man. A great play by Forsythe, ranging up the middle and getting enough on that throw and making it accurate to get Kawasaki.
The Blue Jays want to listen to their clubhouse to find out if this needs to be reviewed, and it doesn't, because Forsythe just made a phenomenal play to barely get Kawasaki down the line. That is a great play by the Rays second baseman.
First pitch to Jose Reyes. That's a strike.
The center of the Rays defense. Rivera behind the plate. Cabrera normally at short, although he's been ejected. Franklin at second. Kiermaier at center. Doesn't get much better than that.
No, they have been outstanding. And what a difference Rivera has made day in and day out behind the plate. And we've talked about Cabrera, you know, on that last road trip at the outset. Kevin Cassidy, he's the best shortstop in the American League, and statistically you could make that argument. But he's made every play. He's had great hands, soft hands. And he has been a big part of this inner defense. And Forsythe at second base has been as good as you can ask a second baseman to be. And that's been in large part the key to the success of the Rays. Reyes out on strikes. Romero takes care of him. So a couple of quick outs here of Kawasaki and Reyes. And now it's going to be Jose Bautista for the hard-throwing left-hander. 1 ball, no strikes.
Woo. Is that 98?
98 on that one.
And he looked up at the scoreboard, which has it at 99, so he was interested to see how fast that fastball was.
2-1.
I didn't know he had 99 or 98 in the tank. Now he's looking back and seeing 98. The scoreboard reading is always 1 higher than ours. Ours has it at 97. He is pumped up to face Bautista here, you would think.
And so pumped up that he probably overthrew a couple of those pitches and missed high, walked him. Second walk given up by Rays pitching, and gives us an opportunity to let you know what's coming up on tomorrow's Rays Live, the pregame show presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. It's a great pitching matchup tomorrow. Study and contrast. Chris Archer, we'll hear from him. He'll be on the hill for the Rays. And Arestas will break down R.A. Dickey's knuckleball. And that in and of itself is something hitters have been trying to do for a long time. Encarnacion looks at a strike. Romero's last time out on the mound for the Rays was against Washington on the 16th. And he was touched for 5 runs, 4 earned in 2 innings in that one.
He's bringing the heat this inning. I mean, he has been consistently, the last couple of hitters, 97, touched 98 against Bautista.
ball, 2 strikes, 97 on that one.
And every pitch, you can see him look back at the scoreboard. So he knows he's throwing the ball. The ball is coming out of his hands high. He's just seeing, how fast am I actually throwing these?
Goes to 2-2, 98 wide with that one.
Did you see Rene Rivera after that last pitch?
Yeah, well, he knows he's pumped up.
He just said, hey, listen, calm down. We don't need 97, 98 out of the zone. Let's throw a quality 95. Watch his reaction. All right, easy, big guy. Love that. Such a nice presence to have back there, and he started that immediately once the season began.
He's engaged every pitch with every pitcher the Rays have. Swing and a miss, 97. So he gets 2 strikeouts in the inning. Strikes out Encarnacion. We go to the bottom of the 7th, 7-3 Toronto. Rays down 7-3, coming in to hit at the bottom of the 7th. Tonight's great moment in Rays history, presented by Geico, and it was on this date in 2013. Will Myers hit his first career home run, a grand slam on CC Sabathia into the seats in right field at Yankee Stadium. First pitch to Logan Forsythe. It's a fastball in the upper 80s and a bit wide. There's a shot into left. Colabello goes back and it's gone. Logan Forsythe hits a fastball out of here for his 8th home run of the year. And the Rays now make it a 7-4 ball game. Logan's second hit of the night.
Pitch tails in on the inner half, right in the wheelhouse. Logan is on it. A lot of his home runs are those line drive home runs, and that was placed to the 3rd row beyond left field. We mentioned their bullpen issues. Brett Cecil at the back end of the bullpen has been struggling lately too. So this bullpen has been anything but locked down.
Yeah, it's still a game. Logan Forsythe with a home run to open the bottom of the 7th, and Steven Souza Jr. takes a little slider outside. Right-hander Liam Hendricks now throwing in the bullpen. 1-1. Souza 1 for 3 on the evening. Drives one down the left field line toward the corner. Colabello runs into that low wall, and the ball kicks back out into left. Around second goes Souza. He's headed to third, standing. Steven Souza tried to get one over the low wall that time. Colabello, who made a nice play earlier, had a difficult time that time.
That low wall, whether you want to call it the Carl Crawford wall or the Evan Longoria 162 wall, has been problematic. We saw Colabello struggle with it earlier when he crashed into it. This time he doesn't even bother going after the ball when he sees the wall creeping up. And the combination of power and speed, we've talked about it before with Steven Souza, the power to get the ball to the wall and then the speed to get the third standing once the ball got away from Colabello.
Well, his first triple, Steven Souza Jr. now with 14 home runs, 9 doubles and a triple. And suddenly the Rays have something cooking here.
Exasperated John Gibbons lately, knowing he just needs to find some arms out of the pen to get some outs.
Now Nick Franklin, he's in the spot vacated by Cabrera when he was ejected. Franklin missed the fastball, strike one. Two quick ones. 0-2. And the Rays within 3 and a man at third with nobody out. Franklin is out on 3 fastballs. That one up at 89. And that's the first out.
They climb the ladder here. Redmond has that little 3/4 sidearm delivery. He gets ahead and just elevates the fastball, and Franklin unable to get on top of it.
There's Jake Elmore now. He takes a strike. That one at 90. So Redmond pumping some fastballs after giving up that home run to Forsythe on a fastball and the triple to Souza. Not a play and a nice grab. 2 strikes.
Frustrating part is the Blue Jays have had the infield back. They're conceding a run. The Rays just need to at least make contact here.
And strike 3 called. Elmore out on strikes for the second time.
Surprising, Jake took that pitch down to the count 2-2. He thinks this pitch is going to drift away. It actually has a little tail on it, catches the outer corner of the plate. He saw that ball out of the hand as being away, and the ball did have a nice little comeback to it and ended up catching a piece.
There's Rene Rivera. And that's a ball. Rivera 0 for 2 with a walk. So it would be a big pickup for the Rays here if Rivera could get this run home. Be a letdown after the home run and the triple with nobody out. Not to cashier this one. There's the shot back into the corner and left. It's still in play. The run is home. It's going to be a double for Rivera. And the Rays make it a 2-run ball game. Big hit for Rene Rivera to avoid the disappointment of leaving a runner in third. And now the Rays are only down by 2. And here comes Gibbons to make the pitching change as a result of this double by Rivera.
Same pitch that Logan Forsythe hit out. A fastball that tails in on the inner half of the plate. And Rene Rivera, boy, Dwayne, you're right. That is an enormous RBI there with 2 outs after back-to-back strikeouts.
Back with a new pitcher in a moment. By 2 in the game tonight and all season. Tires Plus donates $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays home run televised on Sun Sports. Home run by Logan Forsythe to open the inning. Souza's triple followed, and 2 outs later, Rene Rivera doubles home Souza Jr. That's it for Redmond. Liam Hendricks is in the game now. 26-year-old right-hander making his 27th appearance.
He's had a nice year for John Gibbons. You see that ERA below 3, though lefties have hit him at close to a 300 clip this season.
And he's facing the left-handed bat of Kevin Kiermaier. The pitch is a strike. Kiermaier 3 for 4 tonight. Average up to 262. And he had a good cut at that pitch. That one in at 94. A little something on that one. Hendricks fastball on average about 91, 92, but hit 94 on that one.
Also feature a slider. He'll feature the 2-seamer to lefties and an occasional curveball, though not often.
Wide to the mid-90s with that one, so he's throwing hard tonight. 95. And a close pitch in. 2-2. Trying to get that one to come back, and he just missed inside. Now full count. On deck is Joey Butler. Kiermaier with these 3 hits tonight. He does have 1 4-hit game. It was last year against Kansas City. And he is out on strikes. Boy, that slider, 3-2 slider strikes him out. Rays get 2 runs. The first one coming on the 8th home run of the year by Logan Forsythe. And the Rays close the gap to 2. Post-game summary brought to you by Golden Diamond Source. 7-5, the Blue Jays lead. Toronto, a home run from Jose Reyes. Deanna Navarro hit one, and so did Jose Bautista. Kiermaier has 3 hits for the Rays. Logan Forsythe has just hit a home run. And it's a 7-5 game as we head into the 8th with Deanna Navarro at the plate, looking at the first pitch for a strike from Inny Romero. 1-1. He opened with that slider, the strike there, missed with the fastball in the mid-90s. Ground ball, foul, back at third. Nice pickup and throw by Longoria, but Joe West calls it foul. Well, for Navarro tonight, he doubled and scored in the second, homered in the fourth, and singled in the 6th inning. So he needs a triple to complete the cycle, and he has 4 career triples, just in case you're wondering. And the last one came in 2012. 2 of those while he was here with the Rays. So we can quickly calculate the odds.
Not good. We saw the 94 on the fastball to Navarro. I think Annie was kind of fired up against Bautista and Encarnacion.
Fly ball, center field. Kiermaier will go to the track for it and makes the catch. Well, that ball drifted deep. Navarro getting a start and hitting cleanup, and he's taking that seriously tonight, driving Kiermaier back to the track.
This guy's had 4 quality at-bats, this time as a right-handed hitter. And look at Kiermaier wanted to jump so bad, but he just catches it flat-footed. Lining up the feet. I don't have to jump. That was a well-struck ball by Navarro. He's hit the ball hard 4 times.
It's Chris Colabello.
Well, the one off Belisario wasn't hard hit, but still 3 hits and that ball to the wall.
Big cut and a miss by Colabello.
I like how Enny, as a reliever, usually a starter, feels like he can air out the fastball when he needs to. He's not conserving any energy. He's letting it fly tonight.
And a cut and a miss. Another slider right there. And he's ahead of Colabello, 1-2. That slider could be very effective. You know, they saw him hit 95, 96, 97. This one skips by everybody at the plate, and it's a 2-2 count. So they were trying to get fired up for the hard stuff here in the 8th, and that was a couple sliders to get to 2 strikes on Colabello. And he strikes him out. Boy, that's a fastball at 97 and tough in that spot.
Nearly unhittable, Dwayne. 2 strikes, 97 on the corner with a little bit of tailing action away from the hitter. I mean, good luck with that.
That's some low heat right there. Boy, just visualize that and try to repeat it.
Well, here's the thing. The Rays on Friday are going to have to start somebody. Their first option would be to start Erasmo Ramirez. They'll find that out after the bullpen session tomorrow. But I would think one of the other choices is, there's 3 other choices actually. Either skip with the day off Thursday, skip the guys through so you miss Erasmo and everybody else pitches on 4 days rest. Annie Romero would be a possibility. And I think the last option, which the Rays hope to stay away from more than likely, is Matt Moore, who would pitch his next rehab start on Friday, could potentially go here. But I think they would like to wait one more, ideally, before Matt comes back. So, but Annie's looked really good tonight. He's fallen behind this hitter as we sing his praises, but still he's been good.
Boy, a broken bat. The count goes to 3-2 on that foul ball. And Carrera gets a new bat.
For Annie, like a lot of young pitchers, if he throws the ball with some command, the walks would have hurt him. And tonight he walked the one batter, but he's been pretty solid out there other than the one walk.
Well, you come away impressed with his arm, and it has always been, in his time in the minor leagues, a question of command and putting it together. And that pitch to Colabello, you couldn't have made a better pitch. They each have a souvenir tonight.
Yes.
How about that? That's a perfect night out right there.
That is your perfect game for those two.
Ground ball, that's going to go through. Elmore started after it, decided to pull off to get back to the bag in case Forsythe could get there, and the ball goes through the right side. Well, Chris Archer will be on the hill tomorrow night looking for his 9th win of the year. We'll be with you at 6:30 on Sun Sports with Rays Live, the pregame show, and the veteran knuckleballer R.A. Dickey will do the pitching for Toronto. Oh, a pickoff and right over Elmore's head and down into the bullpen. Carrera's headed to third, and they will stop him there. Boy, he had a full head of speed rounding third, and Luis Rivera put up the stop sign for him. So now a man at third on the error charge to Romero.
Just airmailed the pickoff. Jake Elmore, not a tall first baseman anyhow, but he had no chance as Endy threw that well over his head, and the only question was whether the runner Carrera would get to third or try and get all the way home.
Now Danny Valencia. And the pitch is up. Boy, and you want to get this out here. The Rays have closed to within 2 with a couple shots left, and they'll have Butler and Longoria and DeJesus coming up in the 8th. See if they can get something done. So a big hitter. And he just missed with that pitch. It's 2-0. Cut to miss. 2-1.
Nice slider on that 2-1 pitch. They said it was a fastball, but he definitely cut that or slid that because that got under the hands of Valencia.
High foul out of play. And the count is 2-2. And a base hit driven into left. And again, it's a 3-run ball game. Carrera scores. Valencia picking up his 2nd run batted in of this game. And that's what Valencia has done most of his damage in his career in the major leagues against left-handed pitching. And he came into this game hitting .391 this year off lefties. And he drives in a big run for Toronto.
Certainly was. A little ground ball on the right side of the infield, then an error put Carrera in scoring position at third base. And a little slider that did not dive on the hands of Valencia like the earlier one did, and he was able to single to left.
So it's 8-5. Pilar takes the fastball. 97, and that's a strike. Runner goes, and the pitch is fouled into the dugout. Look out. Into the dugout and out again. Everything appears to be all right in there. Boy, that ball was smoked. Wide, 2-2.
98. He has been 97 and at times touching 98 today.
There's a liner into center. That's going to fall for a base hit. That was 98. And Pilar singles into center.
He's been on a roll lately, Kevin Pillar, and he continues that with a base hit through the middle on some high octane fastball. 98, as Dwayne mentioned.
Munenori Kawasaki. He's 0 for 3. Forsythe made a great play on a ball he hit up the middle, and that kept him off the bases. Ball 1.
We've talked about how extensively Kevin Cash has had to use his bullpen, especially on that road trip. I think this is Henry Romero's game to finish, barring something unforeseen happening.
That's a foul ball out of play. Well, Kawasaki is filled with energy, and this is some of his pregame rituals.
Yes.
The man in motion.
What's that? Remember when he was on the left side of the infield with Brett Lawrie?
Oh, it was pure entertainment.
I mean, that's a 10-hour energy drink.
You just didn't know which one to watch first.
That was unbelievable. This guy's hilarious.
But you can see he works at those moves, apparently.
Apparently, oh yeah.
Pre-game drills.
Yeah. What is that? What is that accomplishing? He's got like a belt pack. He's got like a belt pack on.
That's not all. There's more.
Okay, what else do we have?
Well, I think Steven Souza got into his routine there.
He is literally a kid in an adult's body.
Well, this one almost hit him. He was nimble enough to get out of the way, so it's a successful evening.
See, I take it back. Now I understand.
Prevents injury.
I see what that drill is for now. I totally get it. Sorry, Munenori. My apologies.
Yeah, not everyone can move that quickly. You got to work at it. 3-2 now. Down to first. And the toss, boy, Munenori got down there in a hurry. But he's out at first. Jake Elmore to Eddie Romero. 8-5 Toronto.
Heart of the order coming up for the Rays in the bottom of the 8th. They trail the Blue Jays by a score of 8-5. Coming up on the Rays Live postgame, brought to you by Checkers. We'll talk about Kevin Kiermaier's first 3-hit night of the season. We'll also revisit the Jays' big 6th inning that really broke things open for them. And we'll discuss former Ray Gianno Navarro being a key cog in the run that the Jays have made tonight. Hopefully we'll be talking about a Rays comeback, gentlemen.
Well, we're going to go to the bottom of the 8th. The Rays have 2 shots left. And some changes. Danny Valencia goes in to play left field, moving out from third base. And Ryan Goins is the new third baseman here as we open the bottom of the 8th inning. Joey Butler at the plate. Well, the Rays down 8-5. They need a couple of base runners. Butler has 2 hits tonight.
Base runners haven't been the issue tonight.
Yeah, getting them home.
Yeah, the Rays
another story.
Rays have had base runners every inning. They've filled up the score sheet with base runners, but you're right, Dwayne, getting them home.
Ground ball right side. Stopped by Kawasaki. Throw to first, not in time. And another hit for Joey Butler. His 3rd hit.
Butler could smell a hit even after the stop by Kawasaki. He was busting it down the line. Great stop by the Jays second baseman. Gets up quickly, but Butler was flying for the infield hit. Watch this hustle. He knows right now Kawasaki has stopped it, and he is sniffing base hit. And his 3rd of the night.
Well, great effort, both sides right there. Kawasaki with a great stop and throw, and Butler just busting it down the line. Here's Evan Longoria. Pitch is a strike on the outside corner. Well, the Rays again have some base runners. 2 men on here in the 8th inning with nobody out. Second hit for Evan Longoria, and they will get the tying run to the plate in the 8th inning. It's 15 hits tonight for the Rays.
I mean, every single inning. You've got the 3rd and the 4th inning where the Rays only had 1 hit in each of those innings, but every other inning at least 2. Many times 3 hits in an inning. And 15 on the night. Got to take advantage now. You're running out of time.
Well, Steve Geltz up in the bullpen for the Rays. The Blue Jays had Roberto Osuna up. And Gibbons makes that slow walk to the mound. We'll see another pitcher for Toronto. plenty. Lots of points, lots of places. One rewards program. By Hat-Tricks Tavern, who is proud to introduce Hat-Tricks Catering. By Kubota. To find a participating dealer, go to FloridaKubotaDealers.com. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. The new pitcher, Roberto Osuna, just 20 years old, a great arm, and on for the 31st time.
Throws fastball, changeup, slider. Fastball goes about 95. Lately, he has struggled, though, with 6 earned runs over his last 8 1/3. David DeJesus, Dwayne, sitting on 99 career home runs. This wouldn't be a bad time for number 100.
Well, he drove in the first run of the night for the Rays. Had a chance to do more damage in the 8th. And he fouls it back. 95 on that first pitch. Pitch was up, and DeJesus had a good cut.
That's a good sign. I like that first swing. Osuna doesn't allow many home runs, but David was right on that fastball, just under it a bit.
Rays have seen him before. Down and in. 1-1. Here's the nephew of Antonio Osuna, and Roberto Osuna pitched for the Mexico City Red Devils when he was 15 years old. Ooh, a strike. And it's 1-2. He went from the mid-90s to the low 80s there with that off speed, a change. Two on with nobody out. Rays have out-hit the Blue Jays 15-11 tonight, but they trail 8-5. And a foul back fastball, again mid-90s plus. Bullpen has been an issue for the Blue Jays. Pitching overall has been an issue for them. Oh, and a cut and a miss. Fastball 97 up. As Osuna just overpowered DeJesus right there. Tough to handle that pitch.
When you get 2 strikes on a hitter and you've got a 95, which is now 97, and you've elevated, you've got to decide early. And unfortunately, DeJesus decided on a pitch that he could not get on top of.
It's Logan Forsythe. Pitch is high. Logan with 2 hits tonight, including the 7th inning home run. And opened the inning. The Rays picked up 2 in the 7th. And for a moment closed the gap to 2. Now it's 3. And there's ball 2. 2-0. McGee has joined Geltz in the Rays bullpen. And ball 3. It's 3-0.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Steven Souza gets a chance as the go-ahead run. He has faced him a couple of times, 0 for 2 against Osuna. But that high-octane fastball can also go a long way the other way.
Three 3-0 count, and ball 4. He walked him on 4 pitches. The bases are loaded. Steven Souza Jr. will bat with the bases loaded and 1 out in the bottom of the 8th. Well, one swing could change it all right here. He tripled and scored in the 7th inning. Boy, if he'd get a pitch from this guy and make solid contact, it's hard to tell how far it could go. Oh, and he tried right there. Strike 1, a big cut. The fastball at 97.
Love this matchup. My best against your best, and on the first pitch, Osuna wins.
And a cut and a miss. That one at 96.
That one was a little more towards the hitting zone. First one was up a little bit. This one looks like it's middle, just a little elevated. And you can see Souza's bat underneath the first 2 offerings.
The 0-2 upstairs. Not going to chase. That one at 97.
Navarro tried to fool Souza and say down with the glove in case he was peeking, and they really wanted a fastball up. Changed it at the last second.
And strike 3 called at 97.
We'll check out the pitch-by-pitch to Steven Souza. Didn't feel that last one was on the corner. Fastball elevated underneath it. This one a little more of the plate, but again, slightly underneath it. Then they want one up. It is up and away. And this one, does it catch the corner? Souza says no. Kerwin Danley says yes. Close on Fox Tracks.
Yeah, definitely a borderline pitch there. And now it's Nick Franklin. First fastball he took at 97. Trying to get started tough at 97. 0-2.
It just has David DeJesus and Steven Souza Jr. 97 elevated. Difficult to catch up to.
One ball, 2 strikes. Osuna only 20. He's already had Tommy John surgery. So he's gotten that out of the way. And he's out here throwing 97. Two and 2.
Well, this is the pitch he has to come in with for a lot of reasons. You don't want 3 and 2 because A, adds pressure to the situation, and B, starts the runners with 2 outs.
Two. And he fouled it, boy, at the last moment. Very last instant. He made contact to stay alive.
A little bit of a 911 emergency hack right here. Inner half, just trying to clear the hands out of there and stay alive, and he does.
The 2-2 again. And another foul ball. Well, Franklin coming a little closer to timing him up at 97.
You're right, Dwayne. Each swing in this at bat has been a little better. That one he had pitch again 97, everything 97, 198.
Franklin getting time from Kerwin Danley. And a foul ball again. That one a tick up at 98. Rays got the first 2 men aboard. Butler and Longoria on singles against Hendricks. Osuna came on, struck out DeJesus on a fastball up at 97. He walked Forsythe, then struck out Souza looking on a pitch away. The 2-2 again is low for ball 3. So the count goes all the way out.
So he saw Franklin getting on the fastball, tries to throw a changeup to get a chase. Nick does not. Now a head start. Ball in the gap could tie the game. Head start for the runners.
Three-two. 2 outs. Bases loaded. Runners go on a swing and a miss. That one at 98. Tough to make a decision. Probably up. He chased it up. But at 98, good luck making that decision. Here it is. You see it on Fox Track there. Up out of the zone. And the Rays leave the bases loaded. 8-5 Toronto. Well, Steve Geltz comes in from the Rays bullpen. He becomes the 4th pitcher of this game for the Rays. And his job is to hold the top of the order and give the Rays a shot in the bottom of the 9th. And this is all he has done lately. He has been very good, retiring 25 consecutive hitters spread over the last 8 appearances.
Kyle Farnsworth 4 years ago was within one batter of a perfect relief game, if you will, 27 consecutive. Steve Geltz has a chance at that and the Rays record tonight. Not an easy task, though, as he faces the top of the Blue Jays lineup.
Jose Reyes steps in against him. And he takes the first pitch. It's too high. Two and 0. Reyes homered back in the 3rd inning. That came off the starter Matt Andriese, who gave up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 3 solo home runs. Just like that, it's 3-0 to Reyes. Again, 25 hitters retired in a row over his last 8 games. That included that one 2-inning start. Now a strike, 3-1. Ground ball down to first. Elmore makes the play unassisted for the first out in the 9th. So that gives him 26. And he matches the club mark held by Kyle Farnsworth.
Well, you might as well, if you're going to set a mark like this, go against one of the game's best, right?
Well, he's got Jose Bautista, and here is the challenge. That pitch didn't miss by much. 1-0. Bautista homered in the 6th inning. He was the last man Andriese faced tonight, and he walked in the 7th. Oh, close right there. 2-0.
Well, it's not ideal. You start Reyes off 3-0. Now you start Bautista off 2-0. That pitch obviously got away, up and in, but Bautista crowds the plate.
There's a strike. How about that? Nice slider, 2-0. And he throws it for a strike. Fly ball into left. DeJesus is there, and that's the second out. 27 up and 27 down for Steve Geltz now. 27 consecutive hitters retired, and that's a club record for Steve Geltz.
That's quite an accomplishment. There are a lot of quality relievers who have never done that, and good for him. The last 20, by the way, since he got a kiss from Paula Abdul, kind of turned his season around, although he's very solid before that.
And here's
give him the extra boost.
Yeah, and I hear she's doing quite well
she
too
is.
Since she spent time with Steve Geltz.
She celebrated a birthday over the weekend, so you think you can dance is doing well. She's on that show on Fox. Yeah, everything's going well for her too. I like that. I like the fact that it plays both ways.
Yeah, well, that's the way it should be. 2 strikes the count now to Edwin Encarnacion. Geltz has retired Reyes and Bautista. So over 9 appearances, he has thrown a perfect game. But is fouled back as he works here against the big right-handed power bat of Edwin Encarnacion. And a cut and a miss. So it's a 1-2-3 ninth. He starts on the next 27 in a row by striking out Encarnacion. Bottom of the 9th coming. Jake Elmore is going to lead it off for the Rays. Tomorrow, the Rays and the Blue Jays again on Sun Sports with Chris Archer on the mound. Over his last 7 starts, he's 5-0 with a 175 earned run average. And tomorrow, he's out after victory number 9 on the year, coming in 8-4. And our coverage begins at 6:30 here on Sun Sports. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Justin Smoke in the game at first base defensively for Toronto. Jake Elmore leads off and pops it up. That's a foul ball, going to be out of play. Strike 1.
So sticking with Osuna is John Gibbons after 22 pitches to finish off the 8th inning.
He struck out the side. He came on with 2 men on base. Walked a man. Struck out 3 in the inning. Ground ball to short. Reyes has it, and the throw to first in time. That's the first out, so the Rays down to their last 2 outs. Phillies scored a run in the 9th. The Yankees coming in to hit in the bottom of the 9th inning, and that's 11-6 Philadelphia over New York.
Is it my imagination, or does it seem like every night the Rays win, the Yankees win, and every night?
Yeah, I think you're right.
It seems like it's been that way for about a week now.
The Rays came in with a 1-game lead on New York. Rivera missing the high fastball for a strike. Well, the Rays have stranded 14 men tonight. Twice they've left the bases loaded. And that's just not fair. That slider at 90 after the high fastball. 0-2. Out of play. Club record for men left on base for the Rays is 16. The last time was all the way back in 2002 against Baltimore. In July of 2002, they did it once before in 2000 against the Yankees. The Rays need a couple base runners to have a shot here in the 9th inning against Osuna.
They've left the bases loaded in 2 innings, and in 3 other innings left 2 on.
Upstairs, 2-2. Osuna pumping that fastball in there at 97. And he strikes out Rivera on a slider. It's his 4th strikeout. He's recorded 5 outs. 4 have come on strikeouts. There's the slider.
Threw a couple nasty sliders in that sequence to Rivera. Bat not long enough to get there. Osuna now up to 30 pitches, trying to finish out his 2nd full inning of work.
Kevin Kiermaier swings and he misses. So the Rays down to their last out, trailing by 3. And again on the fastball at 97. 0-2 the count. And a cut and a miss. This game is over. And the Toronto Blue Jays have taken the first game of the series. A 1-2-3 9th with 2 strikeouts posted. Osuna worked 2 innings and struck out 5 to close this one out. And the Blue Jays win it 8-5. 8 runs, 11 hits. No errors and 4 men left. For the Rays, 5 runs, 15 hits. one error with 14 men left on base. Hutchison will get the win. His record is now 7-1. Andriese, the losing pitcher, he is 2-2. A save for Osuna. It took 3 hours and 28 minutes to play this game, and the Yankees bat in the bottom of the 9th inning with an out and mid at first and third, down 11-6. So at the moment, the Rays' lead stands at a half game. If the Phillies hang on to that lead, Jonathan Papelbon is in there for the Phillies. It would remain one full game. So the Toronto Blue Jays win this one 8-5. For Todd Callis and the rest of our crew, this is Dwayne Stats. Great to have you with us. Hope you've enjoyed the telecast and not the outcome. Rays and the Blue Jays tomorrow. We'll be with you at 6:30 with Chris Archer on the Hill. Rays Live, the postgame is next, part of our continuing coverage.